This is the largest primate to have ever lived, but did you know that it was first found in a traditional medicine shop? A single massive tooth, initially mistaken for a mythical dragon tooth, turned out to be the first evidence of Gigantopithecus blacki. This was an ape that stood 10 feet or 3 meters tall and weighed up to 660 pounds or 300 kilograms. But what did an ape of such size eat, and why did it disappear from Earth? These are just two of many other questions I will give you an answer to during this video. But first, I'd ask you to give this video a like if it's a topic you find interesting, and give my channel a subscribe if you think I deserve it. In 1935, a German-Dutch paleontologist with an interest for the unusual entered a traditional medicine shop in Hong Kong. The paleontologist, named Gustav Heinrich Ralph von Koenigswald, had made a habit of scouring medicine shops like this one for mislabeled fossils. And on this particular day, he made a discovery that would change our understanding of primate evolution. Amongst jars of herbs and other peculiar animal parts, he saw a tooth labeled as a dragon tooth. This was unlike anything else he'd seen earlier and unmistakably ape-like in structure, but it was far too large to belong to any known primate at the moment. The tooth was big, and its broad, flat shape suggested a diet of tough, fibrous plants. With the size of the molar, it hinted at a primate of epic proportions, and to put it into perspective, the tooth was roughly 3 times the size of a gorilla's molar, which is the largest living ape today. For centuries, fossilized bones and teeth like this had been sold labeled as dragon bones for use in traditional medicine, but now it was possible to change this view from mythical creatures to scientific discoveries. As Ralph von Koenigswald left the shop with the tooth, he didn't have any clue of the impact this discovery would later have on scientific communities. At that moment, he had just discovered an entirely new genus of primates, and he named it Gigantopithecus blacki. Over the following decades, paleontologists used a lot of resources to search for even more evidence to paint a picture of this animal. Today, the fossil record of Gigantopithecus includes nearly 2,000 teeth and a handful of partial jawbones. But there has never been found any complete skulls or other types of bones. Why there are only teeth and jaw fragments that have been possible to find is a mystery that paleontologists and other scientists are still trying to figure out to this day. With the remains that we have been able to restore, it's normal that people start to ask questions. What did this massive ape look like? How big could it get? How did it move? What was its social structure? And maybe the most intriguing one, why did it go extinct while other apes survived? This would be easier to answer with other types of fossils than the ones we have, but with some scientific research methods, it's possible to create some type of understanding of these questions and a picture of the animal itself. Researchers today suggest that Gigantopithecus blacki could reach weights of up to 660 pounds or 300 kilograms and a height of 10 feet or 3 meters at the biggest. These numbers are based on a various use of scientific methods that gives them results they call educated guesses. To be able to do so, scientists have measured the remains of teeth and jaw fossils and compared them to measurements of living primates. Methods like these are often used by researchers to make educated guesses about the overall size and weight of prehistoric animals. One of the most striking features of Gigantopithecus blacki is the size of its molars. These massive teeth are, on average, 57.8% larger than those of modern gorillas. This reflects an animal that could reach big sizes and suggests a body mass of 440 to 570 pounds or 200 to 260 kilograms on average, and around 660 pounds or 300 kilograms at the biggest, and a height at around 10 feet or 3 meters. The method used to create these estimates is called allometry, and that's a method where they examine how different body parts scale with overall size across related species. By using this method, there have been some questions about the numbers being correct in some scientific communities. This is because most of the comparisons have been done with gorillas, and in more recent times, the closest relative to Gigantopithecus blacki has been said to be orangutans. And if you compare the same things with an orangutan instead of a gorilla, the numbers would be slightly less than first mentioned. But this is a discussion in scientific communities that is still going on today, and the estimates I mentioned earlier is what is still being accepted. But the unique morphology of Gigantopithecus blacki's teeth tells us even more about how this primate lived. Its dentition is characterized by thick enamel and a distinctive shape that suggests adaptations for processing tough, fibrous plant materials. This specialized diet would have been necessary to fuel such a large body, which again reflects the given estimates about weight and height. These adaptations also allowed Gigantopithecus to thrive in its prehistoric environment. Gigantopithecus lived in the subtropical monsoon forests of ancient Asia. These lush, closed-canopy habitats would have provided the necessary resources for its survival, at least until environmental changes forced it into a more open terrain, because being the largest primate in its ecosystem came with both advantages and disadvantages. Gigantopithecus Blacki's size would have made it an imposing presence, likely deterring potential predators. On the other hand, such a large body required an enormous amount of food to sustain it. This need for constant nourishment may have made Gigantopithecus particularly vulnerable to changes in its environment and food supply. Just imagine yourself having to fuel this massive body every day. How would you be able to do that? So how did the Gigantopithecus do it? To find out more about the diet of this animal, scientists had to take a closer look at its teeth again. You see, these massive molars hold the key for a lot of our understanding of Gigantopithecus. They can give us answers to its size, diet, habitat, how it lived, and maybe also how it went extinct. By examining wear patterns and analyzing chemical composition, researchers have been able to create a picture of its dietary habits. Unlike other mammals from the same period, carbon isotope analysis of Gigantopithecus teeth revealed that it lived exclusively in forest habitats. This led to a specialization in forest food, which might have been successful for millions of years, but it may have also been an important part for its downfall. So to the big question, what was actually on the menu for Gigantopithecus? Evidence after studies on different teeth specimens points to a diet rich in fruits, leaves, and possibly bamboo. These studies found phytoliths in its teeth, indicating that fruits from the Moraceae family, including figs and jackfruit, were important. This discovery has made some researchers draw a comparison between Gigantopithecus and modern-day giant pandas, suggesting that both might have specialized in bamboo consumption. Another important finding is that its teeth show a high incidence of dental caries, which points at a diet rich in carbohydrates from the fruit it ate. While this is a seemingly healthy diet, it could also become a liability as environmental conditions shifted. This is mostly because fruits are seasonal and could then leave Gigantopithecus vulnerable to food shortages. But this wasn't its only source of food. When scientists took a closer look at its teeth, they saw that the molars were covered in thick enamel. That adaptation made them perfect for grinding tough, fibrous plant materials, which gave them the ability to extract nutrients from places in their habitat that other animals couldn't. However, this specialized diet may have played a huge role in its downfall as well. As the preferred food sources became scarce, possibly due to environmental changes like the forest giving way to the grasslands, Gigantopithecus had to rely on less nutritious food. This created a dietary stress that scientists think played a huge role in the extinction of the primate. And to fully understand the impact of the dietary stress it got, we have to take a closer look at the environment it lived in. Gigantopithecus blacki was an animal that lived for over 1.5 million years. Fossil specimens dating all the way back to around 2 million years ago and until 300,000 to 200,000 years ago tells a lot about its capability to survive for a long time. But changes of its environment made it difficult to survive at the speed the changes came in. The Pleistocene environment of Southeast Asia was very different from what we see today. Towering trees from families like Pinaceae, Fagaceae, and Betulaceae dominated the landscape, and the forest floor was carpeted with ferns and mosses. But in an environment like this, Gigantopithecus wasn't alone. It shared this environment with an array of other fascinating animals, like Ailuropoda microta, which is an ancient relative of today's giant pandas, the elephant-like mammal Stegodon, the hippopotamus-like Hippopotamodon, and its closest relative Pongo weidenreichi, which is an ancient relative of modern orangutans. In this ecosystem and this prehistoric landscape, Gigantopithecus may have been a keystone species. Because of its size and dietary adaptations, it likely shaped the distribution and abundance of certain plant species through its foraging habits. To be able to know information like this, paleontologists use meticulous analysis of fossil evidence to reconstruct this prehistoric ecosystem. Every tooth, bone fragment, and grain of fossilized pollen tells a story. And by comparing these ancient remnants to modern counterparts and analyzing their chemical composition, we can see both similarities and striking differences between the Pleistocene forests and the modern tropical forests. A reason for that is the climate fluctuations Earth experienced throughout the Pleistocene. The fluctuations between glacial and interglacial periods had profound effects on the Southeast Asian forests and their inhabitants. This is revealed by pollen analysis that shows a gradual but significant shift in plant communities over time. For Gigantopithecus, this shift marked the beginning of a challenging chapter of its lifespan, and the study of its biology gives some further answers to why this environmental shift was difficult for it to adapt to. Because to really understand the fate of this primate, we have to take a closer look at its biology, and particularly its extreme sexual dimorphism. Research done in newer times revealed big variations in size in mandibles and canines between males and females, hinting at a big difference in size between males and females of the actual animal. This sexual dimorphism could be evidence of an ecosystem with intense male-to-male competition, which likely influenced Gigantopithecus' social structure. In other primate species, we can see that significant size differences between males and females often correlate with polygynous mating systems, where dominant males mate with multiple females. With a system like this, it could have led to violent conflicts and increased stress on the population, potentially affecting the species' ability to adapt to changing environments. But with the given sizes Gigantopithecus could reach, some paleontological communities still disagree about the acceptance of the research done. As I mentioned earlier, most of the research done is compared with gorillas. This is one of the reasons these communities disagree with the acceptance, since it is said in more recent times that the Gigantopithecus was closer to orangutans than gorillas, and that we should then compare the fossil specimens with orangutans. This has been done by some paleontologists, and the results are a bit different from what is being scientifically accepted at the moment. When they compare jaws from orangutans with jaw fossils from Gigantopithecus, the max height a Gigantopithecus could reach was estimated to be 6.9 feet or 2.1 meters. With this estimate, it's assumed that the jaw fossils used to compare are adult specimens. Another thing that's important to clarify with height estimates is its given posture. It would be a big difference in the size estimates if we compare a Gigantopithecus standing like a human or if it was standing in its more natural locomotion stance. This debate has made it difficult for paleontologists to clarify if Gigantopithecus spent most of its time on the ground, similar to a modern gorilla, or if it used more time in the trees, like its closely related orangutans. With that being said, they mostly agree on it not being an either-or question, as they probably spent more of their time in the trees when younger and more time on the ground as they grew heavier and bigger. With an anatomy like this and the sexual dimorphism observed in Gigantopithecus, it raises some intriguing questions about its social structure. A large group of individuals would be better suited to protect each other from predators, but being a group would also require a larger amount of food. This dual-edged aspect makes their social structure a fascinating mystery. How did they interact? Did they form tight family groups like modern gorillas, or were they more solitary like orangutans? Understanding the answers to questions like these could reveal crucial insights into its existence and extinction. To be able to do so, researchers have relied on comparative analysis with modern great apes and examination of the fossil record. And as mentioned earlier, the sexual dimorphism played a crucial role in mating success. However, size dimorphism doesn't always directly translate to social organization. This can be seen in orangutans, which exhibit significant sexual dimorphism but are largely solitary animals. Its specialized diet might also have influenced their social dynamics. Together with its dental adaptations, it suggests a feeding strategy that required significant foraging time. This could have led to a dispersed social structure, with individuals or small groups spread across their habitat to maximize food intake. By living in groups, they probably would have had a bigger chance of survival as well. Group living could have provided protection against predators, and while Gigantopithecus were likely too large to fall prey to most carnivores, younger individuals might have benefited from the security of a group. It would also have allowed for more efficient foraging and facilitated the transmission of crucial survival skills. However, it may have also made them more vulnerable to environmental changes, as large groups would have required more resources to sustain themselves. But with a social structure like that, communication would have been crucial. While we can't know for sure, they likely possessed a range of vocalizations and gestures to convey information about food sources, threats, and mating availability. Given their size estimates, they probably relied on visual displays, like chest beating similar to gorillas, to communicate dominance or attraction. When we compare Gigantopithecus with other extinct and extant primates based on its physical adaptations, we're faced with some unique circumstances due to their size. Since they were much bigger than any extinct or extant primate, it's difficult to be absolutely sure about the similarities in group living and other things. However, we can draw some parallels with other large-bodied herbivorous mammals. Elephants, which face similar energy demands due to their size, live in complex social groups with strong matriarchal structures. While we can't be sure of Gigantopithecus having an identical social structure, it's possible that they shared some similarities in terms of group dynamics and resource sharing. But to gain a clearer picture of this ape, it would be beneficial to discover some other types of fossils, and that is a mystery that still perplexes paleontologists. Despite thousands of teeth and a few jaw fragments, not a single skull, femur, or vertebra has been discovered. This absence of postcranial fossils has had a big impact on our ability to gain the right type of knowledge about this ape. And to understand why there is such a difference in the dental remains compared to other skeletal elements, we have to understand something called taphonomy. Taphonomy is the study of how organisms decay and become fossilized. Fossilization is an incredibly rare process that requires specific conditions, and that might have been the problem for Gigantopithecus. The cave sites in southern China where most of its remains have been found probably didn't have the right type of conditions to preserve larger bones. This is because the humid subtropical climate could have accelerated the bone decomposition before the fossilization occurred. Additionally, acidic soils, which are often found in these environments, can dissolve bone material over time, leaving only the most resilient parts behind. Gigantopithecus behavior might have also played a role. If these apes spent most of their time in densely forested areas, their remains might have decomposed quickly on the forest floor rather than being buried in sediment where fossilization could occur. Their teeth, however, might have been more easily washed into caves or other preservation-friendly environments, which is one of the reasons for why we have many teeth fossils. If we were ever to discover a complete Gigantopithecus skeleton, it could potentially rewrite much of what we think we know of this ape. Such a discovery would provide crucial and more accurate information about their body proportions, locomotion, and overall anatomy. This could settle debates such as Gigantopithecus being knuckle walkers like gorillas or having a more human-like upright stance, and allow for more accurate reconstructions and behavioral inferences in both science and popular culture. Because even though Gigantopithecus isn't the most well-known prehistoric animal, it has held a special place in popular culture. Scientific documentaries and fantastical fiction seem to have been irresistibly drawn to the idea of a 3-meter-tall ape roaming the earth. In 2016, the remake of The Jungle Book featured King Louie as a Gigantopithecus, which brought this extinct species to life for a new generation of viewers. Gigantopithecus has also been connected to cryptozoology in different communities. Some enthusiasts have drawn parallels between this ape and legendary creatures like Bigfoot and the Yeti. The idea that a massive primate could have survived undetected in remote wilderness areas has fueled countless expeditions and debates. And while these connections are purely speculative and not supported by scientific evidence, they reflect the public's fascination with undiscovered giant primates like Gigantopithecus. The portrayal of Gigantopithecus in popular media has both helped and hindered public understanding of this extinct ape, and it has helped raise awareness about prehistoric animals and interest in paleontology. However, as always, some portrayals have perpetuated inaccuracies or outdated theories. That can result in people having a misunderstood picture of this animal, which increases the importance of finding fossils that give people a more scientifically correct understanding of Gigantopithecus. This is a common problem you often see with other extinct animals in popular culture as well. One prehistoric animal that has had the same type of problem is the well-known dinosaur Tyrannosaurus rex. And if you want to learn more about that dinosaur, check out this video. Thanks for watching, and until next time.